The carriage rattled over the stone road, its wheels beating out a rhythm that seemed to echo Jafari's racing heart. Dust rose in little clouds at every turn, swallowing the palace behind them until its spires were but shadows in the morning light. Inside, silence pressed close. King Adebayo and Kwame sat across from him, their eyes full of concern, but they did not speak. They knew grief needed air before it found words. Jafari sat hunched forward, his hands clenched in his lap. The wooden lion Mosi had once pressed into his palm still lay there, its edges digging into his skin. He stared at it as if it might tell him what to do, as if it might summon the courage he had misplaced. His breath was uneven, his lips quivering with unspoken truth. At last he broke. "Wait." His voice cracked, the single word tearing out of him like a sob. "Wait, I'm doing it again." King Adebayo and Kwame leaned forward. Confusion flickered in their faces. "Doing what?" Adebayo asked carefully, as if the wrong word might shatter Jafari further. Jafari lifted his face, wet with sudden tears. His voice trembled. "I'm running again," he confessed. "My brother was right. I am a runner. I run when things get hard. In Kenya, I ran from Arogo. I ran from my son. And now I'm running again. I promised my son I would never run again. And here I am, breaking his tiny little heart." Jafari's chest heaved as he gripped the lion tighter. "Stop the carriage, please. Stop, I can't go. I have to go back. Even if I cannot be with Sankatara, I must be there for Mosi. To explain things to him, to face this, to try and mend what can be mended. I can't run anymore." For a long breath, the only sound was the groan of the wheels and the horse's hooves striking earth. Adebayo's eyes softened, but his lips pressed into silence. Then, slowly, he leaned out of the carriage window, his voice cutting through the clatter of reins and hooves. "Stop!" he called. The royal procession slowed, the coach jolting as it ground to a halt. Jafari surged forward, his hand already on the door, but Adebayo caught his arm. His voice, low and steady, anchored Jafari like a weight. "You are not a runner, Jafar," he said. "If you were, you would not be questioning yourself now. You would not be breaking yourself open with these words. You have every right to flee this pain. Anyone would. It is no small thing to watch the one you love torn from your arms." His hand tightened on Jafari's sleeve. "Are you certain you wish to go back?" Jafari turned his face. His eyes shone with torment, but also with a fragile, flickering resolve. "Yes," he whispered, his voice breaking. "Yes, it hurts, but I have to go back." Adebayo studied him, and at last a deep sigh left his chest. "Then I will stay with you." Jafari shook his head sharply, startled by the offer. "No, you cannot. Are you mad? You are a king. Your people need you. You must return to Nigeria." From the other side, Kwame's voice rose, quiet but firm. "Then I will stay." Jafari turned to him, lips trembling into a faint, weary smile. He shook his head again. "Thank you, both of you, but no. This is my burden, and I will carry it. This is my mess, and I must fix it." Before either of them could protest, Jafari leaned forward and gathered them both into a fierce embrace. His voice was hoarse, a whisper meant only for them. "Thank you for being my brothers when I needed one." Then he pulled away, reached for the door, and leapt down onto the road. Dust swirled around him as the carriage driver waited, whip poised. Jafari did not look back. He only ran toward the palace, toward the wreckage of his heart, toward the son who still called him Papa. The wheels creaked again, and the carriage rolled on without him. The great gates of the palace loomed ahead, but Jafari's breath was caught long before he reached them. For there, at the threshold, a small figure darted forward, hair wild, cheeks wet, sandals slapping stone. "Papa!" Mosey hurled himself into his father's arms, sobbing as if his little heart might break apart. He had been crying ever since Jafari left, less than half an hour ago, and the flood of grief came rushing out now. Jafari dropped to his knees and gathered him close, holding him as though he would never let go. "Oh, my son, my brave boy," he whispered into the curls that smelled faintly of dust and tears. "I couldn't go to Nigeria. I promised you. I promised I would never abandon you again, and I meant it." Mosey clung to him fiercely, burying his face in Jafari's neck. The boy's small body shook, and Jafari rocked him, whispering apologies into his hair, feeling the weight of every mistake, every absence, every moment lost. His own eyes burned, but he blinked back the tears because the boys needed drying first. The Dark King was nowhere in sight. Jafari doubted he even knew that Jafari had almost left the kingdom, or if he cared. That thought pierced Jafari like a blade. After a long moment, Mosey sniffled and lifted his tear-bright eyes. "Papa, are we going to stay here now that you came back?" Jafari stroked his cheek, his smile heavy with sorrow. "No, my son, we can't stay here." He drew a breath, steadying his voice. "We're going to leave, but this time we'll leave together. To Kenya. Before we go though, I must tie up a few things here in Sudan. My students, my colleagues, the friends I've made. I cannot vanish like smoke, but once it's done, we'll go. You and me. Always together." The boy's face lit up with a fragile sort of relief, though hesitation lingered. "Is Papa Sankatara coming with us? I like him." Jafari's chest tightened. He smoothed a hand over Mosey's curls and forced the words out. "No, Mosey, he's not coming." The boy's shoulders slumped, his little mouth pulling downward. Still, he clung tighter to Jafari's neck. "I'm glad you came back, Papa." Together they began to walk toward the palace doors. But then, suddenly, Mosey froze. His small body stiffened, his hand tightening in Jafari's robe. His face had gone pale, his wide eyes fixed on nothing. "What is it?" Jafari asked quickly, crouching to his son's level. His heart lurched at the look in the boy's eyes. Mosey's voice came in a whisper, thin and trembling. "I have something to tell you." Jafari's brow furrowed. He brushed his thumb against the boy's cheek. "What's wrong, son?" The boy hesitated, swallowing hard, as though the words themselves were heavy. At last he said, "Ever since the man in white came on the eve of your big day, the one Papa Sankatara brought home, he acts strange. He scares me." The hair on Jafari's neck prickled. His chest tightened with unease. "What do you mean?" Mosey's eyes darted toward the garden, though the air was still and empty. His voice dropped further. "A few nights ago, I saw him, the man in white. I think the servants call him Malik. I saw him outside my bedroom window. He was just standing there in the garden, staring into the air. Just standing there." He shivered, clutching Jafari's arm. "It made me scared, Papa." The blood in Jafari's veins chilled. For a moment he only stared at his son, caught between disbelief and dread. Then he forced a smile, stroking the boy's hair with trembling fingers. "That's impossible," he said softly. "You couldn't have seen Malik outside your window. He's ill, Mosey. He has not left his bed since he came to the palace." But Mosey's small hands clutched tighter. His gaze pleaded. "But I did see him." Jafari held Mosey close. "It must have been a dream, little warrior, a nightmare, nothing more. You are safe. I promise you, you are safe." The boy lowered his head, shoulders heavy with doubt. "Okay, Papa." Jafari smoothed a hand over his son's curls. "Go on," he murmured, leading Mosey forward. They stepped inside the palace, the doors closing behind them, shutting out the courtyard's silence. The days crawled by in the slow rhythm of recovery. Malik, once little more than a body broken and unconscious, was beginning to return to himself. He could now sit without trembling, walk a few steps across the chamber, bathe and dress without hands guiding him. His voice no longer wandered in nonsense but shaped words, weak though they were. Sankatara hovered near him always, a shadow that never left his side. He brought food, fluffed pillows, cooled fevers, bathed sweat from Malik's brow, even when Malik no longer needed such care. He lifted spoon to lips, as if Malik was still made of glass, as though the smallest slip of his hands might shatter him forever. The king, who commanded armies, who had once burned cities to ash, now lived in dread of letting one man fall. Days before, a guard had whispered that Jafari had gone, left the palace, left Sudan, left him. Sankatara thought the news would strike him like a blade. The old him would have followed, begged, sworn he could not live without Jafari. But when the words reached him, they slid off like water over stone. For even as they were spoken, Malik stirred in the bed and breathed his name, and Sankatara's heart, as if bewitched, turned fully to him. Jafari slipped further and further from his mind. Once, Jafari had filled every thought, every dream, every hunger. Now, even the thought of their bond made Sankatara's head ache. It was easier, better, not to think of Jafari at all. That afternoon, Malik smiled, truly smiled. He had eaten well, sat upright against pillows, and when Sankatara set the tray aside, he turned that smile on him, the very same smile that once upon a time had undone him. He remembered. He remembered the first time he had seen it, years ago, a boy in plain robes, standing beneath the wide arms of a baobab tree where shadows stretched cool across the dust. Malik had looked up, the sweetness of fresh dates glistening on his lips, and smiled in greeting. It was a smile without guile, without calculation, so bright, so disarming that Sankatara's heart had fallen into it like a stone into water. That smile had been the beginning of everything: love, ruin, fire. And now here it was again, pulling him back into the past like a hook through flesh. Sankatara sat down on the edge of Malik's bed, his lips twitching into the faintest smile of his own. "Why are you so happy today?" he asked, voice quiet, careful. "Can't a man be happy?" Malik replied gently, for finally being able to see the love of his life again. The silence that followed was heavy. It pressed against the walls, against their skin, until every breath felt charged. Then Malik shifted. His smile changed, softness giving way to something sharper, more deliberate. He reached out, closing the space between them with slow precision. Sankatara stiffened as Malik's hand caught his, pressing it lightly against his chest. The steady beat of Malik's heart pulsed beneath his palm. Heat rose in Sankatara's throat. His body remembered too much, their history, the hunger, everything they had once been. "Malik." Sankatara's voice was rough, tangled with restraint. "You're still healing. You should rest." But Malik's eyes were unwavering, his touch insistent. He leaned closer, his voice lowering to a whisper, weaving memory and temptation together like a spell. Every word was a reminder of what they had once shared, and every heartbeat pulled the king further into the undertow of the past. Sankatara trembled, his chest heaved. His body, traitor to his mind, remembered every night, every warmth. He was caught between the echo of old desire and the ghost of his promise to another. Malik leaned back against the pillows, the challenge clear in his eyes. He didn't need to say more. His look said everything. "Come to me." His body knew how to bait him, how to make him remember. and Sankatara might have fallen, but footsteps broke the air. The king jerked upright as if seared, his hand snapping away, his breath shuddering. Malik's mouth twisted in a frustrated groan, his eyes flashing fire at the interruption. Jafari stepped inside. "I want to talk," Jafari said, his eyes fixed on the Dark King. He had seen nothing. Sankatara rose at once, striding quickly to Jafari, desperate to shield, to escape. "Come," he muttered, his voice rough. They turned toward the hall. But something pulled at Jafari, a weight in the room behind. Slowly, against his will, he glanced back. Malik's eyes were upon him. No softness, no angel smile, not the man everyone called gentle as silk, tender as water. No, this was a glare cold enough to freeze marrow, sharp enough to cut a man to bone. The hairs rose at the back of Jafari's neck, his pulse faltered. And then Malik's venomous expression was gone, as quick as a shadow swallowed by light. He lowered his eyes, serene, saintly, the very picture of innocence. Jafari blinked, unsettled. He shook his head. No, he must be imagining it. Everyone said Malik was gentle, pure, incapable of harm. Even Sankatara had said it again and again. Malik was a saint, an angel, a victim of cruelty. So Jafari dismissed the chill crawling over his skin. He told himself it was nothing. The hallway was dim, the stone walls cool to the touch. Jafari's steps echoed faintly, but his heart made the greater noise, thundering in his chest. He had followed Sankatara out of Malik's chamber, words pressing in his throat until they broke. "I'll be leaving Sudan in a few days," he said quietly. His voice was steady, though the ground felt uncertain beneath him. "I'm taking Mosey with me. We're not coming back. I can't keep living here like this, never knowing what my place is in your life anymore." He waited. He braced himself. He expected anger, or sorrow, or even disbelief, something that would show that his presence still mattered to the Dark King. But Sankatara only gave a single nod. His eyes were flat, his voice low and untroubled. "Okay, thanks for letting me know." And then he turned as if to leave. Jafari's breath caught sharp in his throat. His temper, born of love and anguish, flared. "Really? Is that all you're going to say?" Sankatara glanced back, his face unreadable stone. "What do you want me to say, Jafari? You're the one who wants to leave. You're running away like always, like you ran from your son years ago. Why should I be surprised?" And with that, he walked away. The words hit like a blade in the gut. Jafari stood frozen, floored by the cruelty. His Sankatara, his Dark King, would never weaponize his past against him, would never throw his worst sins into his face like barbs. This voice, this cold dismissal, was that of a stranger. Their bond, their love, seemed erased as if it had never been. Jafari wandered the palace corridors like a ghost that day. Hours passed. His thoughts circled like vultures, tearing at what remained of his hope. He replayed the words again and again, as though by sheer force of repetition they might make sense. They did not. Late in the afternoon, as the light slanted gold across the courtyard stones, Jafari crossed the open court and approached one of the palace entrances. Something caught his eye. A figure. He looked up. It was Malik, standing at a window above, the robe about him pale as bone. He was staring down at Jafari. For the briefest moment, Jafari thought he saw a smile. Mocking, crooked, cruel. His chest tightened, confusion twisting in him. The sight of Malik standing there silent, just watching him, felt uncanny, almost wrong. There was no shift of breath, no restless motion, only a stillness too perfect, too deliberate, as though Malik were not simply looking at him, but into him. They had not met officially, Could Malik even know who he was? But before Jafari could settle his thoughts, Malik moved. Slowly, deliberately, his hand drifted down to his waist. The movement was languid, theatrical, a performance meant for Jafari alone. The loose fabric shifted just enough to suggest what he wanted, but never revealed a thing. Jafari's breath caught. His heart stuttered. Malik stood framed in the high window, his movements slow and calculated. Every slight adjustment of his body carried weight, measured, predatory, intimate. His eyes never left Jafari. Then mockery sharpened to something darker. With a languid, taunting smile, Malik dragged his fingers slowly across his mouth, a gesture heavy with meaning Jafari could not mistake. It was deliberate, private, a message meant for him alone. Jafari's legs went weak, his chest hollowed with shock. He could not speak, could not cry out. He could only stand beneath the window, frozen, the obscene pantomime burning into his eyes. Then, suddenly, Malik startled. His head whipped to the side, as if someone had entered his chamber. His expression transformed in an instant, from sultry and mocking to soft, fragile, blameless. A shadow filled the window beside him, Sankatara. The Dark King leaned near, his head bent toward Malik, speaking low, too soft for Jafari to hear. Malik pouted, lips trembling, eyes widening in a picture of helplessness. Then he lifted a hand and pointed down toward the courtyard where Jafari stood. Sankatara followed the gesture. His eyes found Jafari, and his face darkened. The Dark King murmured another word to Malik, then vanished from the window. Malik, left alone, lingered. His mouth curled once more into that mocking smile, pure triumph. He stuck his tongue out at Jafari like a boy who had won a game, then disappeared from sight. Jafari staggered back a step, bile rising in his throat. He turned and entered the palace, his body shaking, his mind in chaos. He had not gone far when Sankatara appeared, striding toward him with fury in his eyes. "Jafari," the king said sharply, "please stop bothering Malik. He's still recovering. It's better if you leave him alone." Jafari blinked, staggered. "What do you mean, bothering him?" Sankatara's jaw clenched, his voice was clipped. "Malik told me you've been giving him strange looks, this morning, and just now, at the window." Jafari's mouth fell open, his stomach turned hollow. "Are you serious right now?" His voice cracked, incredulous. But the Dark King only repeated, flat and cold, "Leave Malik alone." And then he turned away, leaving Jafari standing in the corridor, stunned into silence, his lips parted in disbelief, his heart breaking afresh. The corridor was long and hollow, its silence broken only by the faint hiss of torch flame. Jafari drifted through it like a man in a dream. His steps were slow, unmoored. He was not angry. He had no breath for anger. What the Dark King had said to him, the way he had turned away, it rang wrong inside him, heavy and foreign, as if spoken by another mouth entirely. He pressed a hand against the wall, steadying himself. The words echoed still. "You're running away, like always." Then, in the stillness, another voice rose in his memory, smaller, softer, a child's voice. "Papa, I saw him outside my window." Jafari's heart gave a sudden, painful leap. His eyes widened. Without a second thought, he turned and hurried down the hall, his robe whispering about his legs. He climbed the small stair and crossed to the chamber where his son slept. Mosi was curled beneath his blankets, his breath soft, his small hand clutching the carved wooden lion. Jafari stood over him for a long moment, the ache in his chest twisting tighter. Then, with trembling fingers, he reached and touched the boy's shoulder. "Mosi," he whispered. "Little warrior, wake up." The boy stirred, blinking, lids heavy with sleep. "Papa," he murmured, voice thick with dreams. "I'm sorry," Jafari whispered quickly. "I know it's late, but this is important. I need your help." Mosi rubbed his eyes, pushing himself upright. "What is it?" Jafari sat beside him, his face lit by the faint glow of the moon through the shutters. His voice was low, urgent. "That night, you told me you saw Malik outside your window. Do you remember? Tell me again exactly what you saw." The boy frowned, confusion clouding his sleepy gaze. "I thought you didn't believe me." The words struck him like a lash. Jafari bowed his head. "I'm sorry. I should have believed you. But now..." He lifted his eyes again, voice firm though his chest trembled. "Now I think something might be wrong with Malik. Please, Mosi, tell me everything." Mosi's curls shadowed his brow as he nodded slowly. "It's not just that night, Papa," he said. "It happened again, last night." Jafari's breath stilled. "Last night?" "Yes." The boy's voice grew quieter, as though speaking of something forbidden. "I went to the west wing to find Papa Sankatara." "Why?" Jafari asked gently. "Because he missed our play night," Mosi admitted, eyes dim with sadness. "He always plays with me, but ever since the man in white came, he hasn't." I wanted to remind him. Jafari's heart clenched. He smoothed the boy's hair, urging him on. "And what happened?" Mosi shivered as he remembered. "Papa Sankatara wasn't there. Instead, I saw the man in white." "Malik?" The boy nodded. "He didn't see me. He was standing in the middle of the room, whispering to himself in some strange language. The words sounded scary, like growls, like something not human. His small body trembled. I got so scared, I ran away." Silence pressed down on them, heavy and suffocating. Jafari could hear the child's breath, quick and uneven, and his own heart beating against his ribs. "Papa," Mosi whispered, eyes wide with fear. "That man is strange. I don't like him." Jafari pulled Mosi into his arms at once, holding him close, as though he could shield him from every shadow. "Thank you for telling me," he whispered into his curls. "You were brave to tell me. You are always brave." He laid Mosi gently back against the pillows, tucked the blanket close, and kissed his forehead. "Sleep now, little warrior. I will take care of this." Mosi sighed, already sinking back into dreams, though a faint crease of worry lingered on his brow. Jafari rose silently, his figure shadowed in the dim light. He stood at the doorway a long moment, watching his son breathe. Then he slipped out into the hall, closing the door softly behind him. The night air in the corridor felt colder than before. The morning light was pale, creeping through high windows, tracing long bars of gold and shadow across the stone floors. Jafari walked the corridors with a distracted mind, his thoughts circling endlessly around Mosi's words, Sankatara's coldness, Malik's stare from the window. He nearly collided with someone rounding the corner. A firm hand caught his arm before he stumbled. Jafari looked up. It was the mentor, the old teacher from the school for princes and princesses. His face, usually calm as carved stone, was furrowed now with unease. Relief broke across his features as his eyes found Jafari. "Thank the gods," the man breathed, "just the one I was searching for." They withdrew into a quieter corner of the hall, away from the ears of passing servants. "What troubles you?" Jafari asked, noting the tension in the older man's shoulders. The mentor lowered his voice. "I visited Malik. I knew him once when he and Sankatara were together. After the wedding eve, After all the uproar, I wished to see for myself how it was possible that he is still alive. His brow tightened further, and what I saw unsettled me. Jafari's heart lurched. What do you mean? Not Malik himself, the mentor said carefully. He said nothing, did nothing, but Sankatara. The mentor paused, weighing his words. He did not seem like himself. The way he moved around Malik, it was not the Sankatara I know. There was something in his eyes, something, not his own. I cannot name it, but I am certain it has to do with Malik. The words pierced Jafari to his core. Ever since that night in the courtyard, ever since Mosi whispered his fear, Jafari had doubted himself. He wondered if he was only seeing shadows born of jealousy, if grief and heartbreak had twisted his sight. He told himself perhaps Mosi had dreamed, perhaps Malik's strange smile at the window was only his imagination. But now the same unease lived in the words of a grown man, an elder, a mentor he respected. Jafari drew in a slow breath, steadying his racing heart. He was not imagining it. He was not alone. The mentor laid a hand briefly on Jafari's arm, a gesture of quiet solidarity, then excused himself, leaving the palace with worry still shadowing his eyes. Jafari remained where he stood, the corridor stretching around him like a tunnel. His heart pounded with a new rhythm, no longer just grief, but clarity. Something is wrong. The king is not himself, and Malik is at the center of it. He would not run. He would not abandon his son, his love, his truth. He would find out what was happening. Footsteps drew near. A maid approached, bowing her head respectfully. "Your Highness," she said, "I have finished packing your things. Shall I have them moved to the carriages?" For a heartbeat, Jafari stared at her, his mind blank. Then he remembered the plan he had made. Tomorrow, he and Mosi were to leave Sudan, flee to Kenya, to disappear. But now his decision crystallized like stone. "No," Jafari said firmly, his voice steady as steel. "Unpack everything. My son and I are no longer leaving. We are staying in Sudan." The maid blinked, startled, then bowed quickly and withdrew. Jafari stood alone in the corridor, the echo of his words lingering in the air. His hands trembled at his sides, but his resolve was unshaken. He would not run, not this time. That evening, Jafari lay upon his bed, but found no rest. The chamber was silent, the lantern guttering low, yet his mind spun like a wheel in the dark. His thoughts circled back again and again to that window, Malik's body gleaming pale in the light, his robe fallen open, his eyes burning mockery down upon him. Malik had not spoken, yet the message had been clear as carved stone. "This is war. I will take what is yours." The palace whispered of Malik as an angel, gentle, pure, soft-spoken, a soul too tender to harm a butterfly. But Jafari had seen the truth. There was nothing angelic in Malik's stare, nothing saintly in his smirk. He was no lost lamb returned from the grave. He was a wolf dressed in white. And if Malik's intentions were plain, what of Sankatara? Jafari pressed a hand against his chest, feeling the dull ache within. He trusted the king. He had always trusted him. The Dark King would never cheat, he told himself. He repeated it like prayer, like mantra. Yet the memory of Sankatara's sharp words, his turned back, the days of neglect, they bit at Jafari until trust felt like smoke slipping through his fingers. What did they do in that chamber, alone together? Malik was healed now. There was no need for endless vigils by his side. What filled the hours? Old stories, hands brushing, lips meeting. The thought lodged like a thorn in Jafari's mind, and the more he pushed it away, the deeper it dug. No, he whispered to himself. No, Sankatara would not. But the doubt gnawed and gnawed until Jafari's body ached with sleeplessness. At last, unable to endure it, he rose. He drew on his robe, slung his guitar across his back, and set his steps toward the west wing. When he reached Malik's bedchamber, the door gave beneath his hand. Inside, lamplight glowed golden upon two figures. Sankatara sat beside Malik in a chair, the two leaning close, laughter soft between them. Too close. Malik's shoulder brushed against the king's arm, his body tilted like a vine winding where it was not welcome. But when Jafari entered, Sankatara shifted away, the distance small but sharp. Irritation flickered across Malik's face, though he masked it swiftly. The king rose at once, his expression hardening. "What are you doing here?" he asked Jafari, his voice cold. "Did I not tell you to leave Malik be? And are you not meant to be gone already?" His words cut, but Jafari swallowed them. He stepped forward until he stood nose to nose with the Dark King, his voice stripped bare of patience, stripped of softness, stripped of fear. "I am not going anywhere, Sankatara. You pray I'll leave so you can run to Malik without guilt, but I will not make it easy for you. I will not be tossed aside like a cast-off cloak." Jafari turned then to Malik. His gaze was sharp as a blade. "And you, if you mean to steal what is mine, you will have to fight harder than this. I will not hand him over." Malik's eyes glinted, but he said nothing. Jafari moved past them both and out onto the balcony beyond the chamber. The night was cool, the stars sharp above. He lowered himself into a chair wedged against the door, set his guitar upon his knee, and began to play. The music rose low and steady, the strings humming beneath his fingers. He did not look back into the room. He did not need to. His presence was a wall, his song a watchfire. Sankatara tried once more to send him away, his tone sharp. Jafari only answered, "If you leave, I will leave. If you stay, I am staying. I will not leave you alone with him." And so it was. All that night he kept his vigil, the quiet music threading through the dark. When the king at last left at dawn to attend his duties, Jafari rose and left as well. When the king returned later in the evening, Jafari returned. Day after day it continued. Every visit Sankatara made to Malik's chamber, Jafari came too, guitar in hand, and stationed himself on the balcony like a sentinel. He spoke little, only played, his eyes shadowed but steady. Finally, his presence wore on the Dark King. Sankatara grew uneasy beneath that silent watch. His visits shorter, his words fewer. Before long, some days Sankatara did not come at all. And always Jafari was there. The servants noticed. They whispered in corners, carrying word through the halls, how Jafari would not leave Malik and Sankatara alone, how the prince's music haunted the palace night after night. Some said it was stubbornness, others said it was heartbreak, but all agreed that the sound of his strings clung to the stones like a vow, like defiance. One night, as the palace lay hushed in its nocturnal breath, Sankatara entered Malik's chambers. He moved with the same weariness of the past days, his shadow long in the lamplight. Not long after, the door creaked again. Jafari stepped inside. The king's face hardened at once, the weariness transforming into anger. "Jafari, leave." Jafari did not answer. He only stood his ground, eyes steady, body unmoving. A storm flashed in the Dark King's eyes. He turned on his heel, cloak flaring, and strode from the room. His steps echoed down the corridor until they faded into silence. Jafari made to follow, but a voice, smooth, sharp, cut through the air behind him. "Stay." The sound stilled Jafari. Malik had risen from his seat. He moved swiftly to the door, shutting it with deliberate force. The bolt slid home. Now only the two of them remained in the chamber, the heavy air pressing in. When Malik turned, his gaze was sharpened steel. "What game are you playing, Jafari?" Jafari's jaw tightened. He lifted one shoulder in a dismissive shrug. "I could ask you the same." Malik's lips curved, but the smile was cold, his voice darker than its softness suggested. "I feel sorry for you," Jafari said flatly. "I do. About what happened to you, but you were gone for years. I found him. He's mine now, and I won't let him go." "You don't have a choice," Malik snapped, the sweetness dropping away entirely. "What Sankatara and I shared was sacred. What you have with him—" His eyes flicked over Jafari like a knife. "Is nothing. He still loves me. He said it himself. And if he truly loved you, Jafari, he wouldn't be choosing me over you." The words struck Jafari like arrows. For a heartbeat, Jafari's chest tightened with fear. Fear that Malik was right. But his face remained composed, his voice even. "You should stop coming here," Malik added, his tone lowering to a mocking purr. "Didn't you say you were leaving?" Jafari's laugh was sharp, cold. "Oh, I know your game, Malik, but I won't make it easy for you. If you want Sankatara, because I won't leave you alone for a single breath, don't think I was born yesterday." Jafari's gaze narrowed. "And your story? This nameless man who held you captive for years? It doesn't sit right with me. If you're lying, I'll find out." For the first time, Malik's mask slipped entirely. His face twisted, fury flashing through the false angel's guise. "Why don't you just die, Jafari?" he spat, venom dripping from every word. "Go, leave us. Let me and Sankatara continue what we began." Then his mouth curved into a cruel, knowing sneer, and he spoke a name. A name Jafari had not heard in years, a name from his childhood in Kenya, a name only his brother had ever used. Kidogo. Jafari froze, the blood drained from his face, his voice trembled. How do you know that name?" Malik stepped closer, each step deliberate, his voice dropping into a chilling whisper that slithered into Jafari's ears. "I know everything about you, Jafari, where you were born. The nights you slipped into the servants' quarters because you felt safer among them than in your own chambers. The way your mother wept alone when your father cursed you, though she never dared to defend you. The times you fled into the hills after your brother's words cut too deep. The teacher who caught you kissing a boy behind the stables. Your son's first cry. Your fear that no matter what you build, you will never be enough." One by one, each word fell like stones into a well, echoing into Jafari's very marrow. He stood rooted, his breath thin, his body trembling. It felt as though Malik were peeling him open, layer by layer, his life spread bare like a scroll no mortal eyes should read. And then Malik smiled, not tender, not sweet, a smile sharp and terrible, gleaming with cruel satisfaction. The flame guttered low, shadows danced across the chamber walls. Malik's voice slipped into the silence, low and venomous. "I was here first. I built this game. You cannot win, so spare yourself the misery and bow out now." The last thing Jafari saw was that smile.